Number 23, David Robinson.
Four-time first-team All-NBA, two-time second-team All-NBA, four-time third-team All-NBA. So for 10 years, he was one of the three best centers in basketball at a time where there were some unbelievable centers. 94, 95, 96. Second place MVP, won the MVP, second place MVP. So a 3-year stretch where either won the MVP or came in second each 3 years. One-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time All-Defense. He won a scoring title, a rebounding title, and a blocks title. His first 7 years in the league, he was 26-12. Now, he came into the league older than most because he had to do those 2 years in the Navy. But for 7 years in the league, 26-12. Then he got hurt. It was one of the most fortuitous injuries in NBA history because he was hurt, the Spurs totally tanked and they ended up getting Tim Duncan, and then they immediately won a title. Now, people act like when they won the title, David Robinson was not a huge part of that. He was not a huge part of the second title they won with Duncan when he was still there. Duncan obviously won 5. He won 2 with Robinson. The one in 03, Robinson was a role player at best. In 99, however, Robinson was excellent. We'll get to that. So what are his big postseason moments? Similarly to Stockton, David Robinson doesn't have a bunch of, oh my God, eye-popping postseason moments. Only one career 40-point playoff game. But amazing postseason consistency and did have some great postseason moments. 1993, down in the series to Charles Barkley and the Suns, Western Conference semifinals, throws up a 36-16. In 1995, to get to the Western Conference Finals for the series, averaged 30-16. Now, unfortunately, his reward for getting to the Western Conference Finals was to play Hakeem Olajuwon, who was furious that David Robinson won the MVP, and Hakeem just annihilated him the entire series. But Hakeem is going to show up very, very high on this list. Losing to Hakeem, there's no shame in that. In 96, is one of his first games after Hakeem had annihilated him the previous year. He has his one career 40-point playoff game, 40-21, and averaged 30-12 for that series and sent Charles Barkley home again. So that, I shouldn't say again, 93 Charles beat him, but he got even with Charles in 96. And then in the 99 Spurs, this is the point I was making earlier. Those 99 Spurs went 15-2 in the playoffs. He was clearly the second best player on that team. And in the finals, he averaged 16 points and 12 rebounds. So the idea that he didn't have a big role in that is ahistorical. Now, what is interesting is, and one other David Robinson note, is David Robinson, there used to be this thing called the IBM Award, where they created some algorithm, algorithms becoming popular in NBA parlance, put in people's numbers, said who's the best player in the league. And almost every single year, David Robinson won it. Jordan was playing, Robinson won it. Hakeem at his peak, Robinson won it. Now, that overstated Robinson's dominance, but I do think people these days forget about how good he was during his peak from the very late 80s until his injury in 96. However, that is a bit of a testament to one of the flaws even back in the early 90s with some of the basketball algorithms. They're going to reward high efficiency, high rebounding big men and make them seem a touch better than they are. If that reminds you what's happened with Nikola Jokic, where the numbers say he's the best player in the league, when he's clearly one of the 10 best players in the league, but nobody who watches the game actually thinks he's the best player in the league. That is what's happening to Nikola Jokic. So there is the 23rd best player of the last 50 years, one David Robinson. Now, oh my God, I almost skipped our caller. I thought the David Robinson commentary was so good I didn't need any addition. Let's go to the caller. I assume the caller's just going to say, Nick, that was brilliant, even though this was recorded before I actually said that. What does the caller have to say about David Robinson?
So let me see if I get this right. You have David Robinson, the Admiral, at 23. Yeah, see, this is just disrespect, and it continues to happen against the San Antonio Spurs. You've got Barkley, Malone, KG, and Dirk all ahead of him, which makes no sense. Rookie of the Year, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. He led the league in blocks, points, rebounds. Those were in different years, by the way. 2 rings. He was the best player on one championship team, the second best player on another one. And P.S., how is Charles Barkley? No offense, I love Chuck. But how is he ahead of the Robinson? Robinson titles, finals appearances, points, rebounds. This is flat out disrespect. I won't have it.
All right, first of all, much respect to Michelle Beadle and what appears to be about $40,000 worth of shoes behind her. A nice little stunt by Michelle Beadle, and I appreciate her joining us. And I know she's a Spurs fan. However, I cannot abide there were some fact errors there. David Robinson was the best player on 0 title teams. Tim Duncan was the best player on that team by a mile, won Finals MVP unanimously. No one thought he was the best player on that team. And he was not the second. She said he was the best player on one finalist and the second best player on another. It's not true. He was the second best player on the 99 finalist and like the 6th best player on the 03 finalist and champion. As far as why do I have him behind other big men or, post players like Barkley and Dirk, and that's not spoiling anything about the list. I haven't mentioned those guys yet. They're obviously going to be mentioned. I think you're going to see those guys have similar regular season resumes and greater postseason accomplishments. What they didn't have was the ability to play with Tim Duncan. Color me crazy. I think if Barkley, at the tail end of his prime would have gotten Tim Duncan, he probably would have won some titles too. So I'm confident with where I have, with respect to Michelle Beadle, where I have David Robinson, 23rd best player of the last 50 years. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.